Hello, my name is Bryce Tubbs. With me today is David Newman. He helps people over 40 to reduce their stress, manage their anxiety, and live a happier, healthier, more confident life. I'm super excited to be able to share his story with you today. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, David.
It's a real pleasure, Bryce, and thank you for inviting me on today. It's great.
You're welcome. And for those watching, we thoroughly hope that you find value out of this conversation. And also, if you're watching this from any other location outside of our free community, I just want to personally invite you, because inside, we're really adding value to people's lives and helping each other improve every day. So if that's what you've been missing in your life, go on ahead and join us inside of those communities. I'm going to put some links above or below the video. Now, David, what was life like before you got into coaching? And really, what was the catalyst that brought you into the field of helping people?
I've worked in the field of mental health for about 20 years. And back in 2007, well, actually 2006, I did my life coach training. But my partner at the time was a social worker, and she encouraged me to train as a social worker, which I then did. I went to do my master's at the University of Nottingham. So I did that for many, many, many years. Working through various fields in mental health with adults and children. And it was dealing with some very complex, very stressful situations. And actually the catalyst for coming into what I do now was back in 2015. I was living with real high anxiety, a lot of stress. And very surprisingly, because I was fairly fit at the time, I ended up having a stroke. Which surprised myself and surprised my family. But for me, that was the catalyst. I realized that I was spending all of my time helping other people to manage their complex situations and manage their needs. I wasn't actually looking after my own. So I was living day to day with high levels of stress and anxiety, doing nothing about it. Had the stroke, went back to work after I recovered. And then about a year or so later, I decided, actually, this isn't what I want to do anymore. I don't want to do social work in terms of working for an organization. I've always wanted to work for myself. And I thought, well, what can I do? So I went back to my life coach training. And then I started doing life coaching, but in more of a generic way. So it's trying to help everybody again. Until I spoke with, I don't know if you've heard of Fiona Harold.
I've heard of her.
Yeah, she's a sort of very well-known life coach. So I've had some conversations with Fiona, who suggested quite strongly, bless her, that actually what I needed to do was find my own niche rather than be generic. So after a number of conversations, we talked about my personal history, and I talked about when I had my stroke, living with high anxiety and stress. And she said, well, there's your niche. You've been through that, you got help for that, and now you can help other people to stop them going through the kind of situation that you went through. So that's why I kind of came into this particular niche of stress and anxiety coaching.
Now, it's probably interesting. What is one cause of anxiety and stress that most people would not expect to be a stressor?
It's frozen.
It's frozen. I was saying, so what would one unknown cause of stress and anxiety be? One that people would not really expect?
An unknown effect of stress and anxiety. Well, quite a lot of the people with me who come to see me don't realize that they're living with anxiety. We think about the usual things like work, relationships, divorce, caring for children and parents. Big life changes can sort of cause stress. But I suppose some of the less common things are, it's more of a build-up sometimes that people aren't even aware that they're building up their stress and anxiety. We become tired, we become more angry, we become more impatient. And we just see that as living day to day, as day-to-day life. But as was the case with me, is that builds up and builds up and builds up. So it doesn't have to be one significant stress factor that causes it. We all live with stress day to day, and that's not a bad thing, because stress can help us keep focused, it helps us keep motivated. But sometimes it's the culmination of a lot of little things that are going on in our daily lives that really put those stress and anxiety factors on us, and we don't realize we're living with them. So when people think of anxiety, they think of things like social anxiety, where you're sort of struggling to go out, panic disorders, OCD, all those kind of things. But actually, it's quite often a build-up of smaller things. So it could be little things that are niggling at you day to day, and you just kind of brush it off, and you just sort of get a bit irritable about it. So it might not even be things that you recognize as anxiety factors, but it's a long sort of culmination of things sometimes. Sometimes if it's a bereavement, that can cause stress and anxiety, but that's something that we can kind of pinpoint. Whereas it's the smaller things, the day-to-day things, the looking after children, caring for parents, which can be much more bigger factors really in the build-up of stress, which is kind of what happened to me, is that I knew that I was stressed out, but I didn't realize the levels of anxiety and your coping mechanisms. Sometimes people cope with anxiety in a way that they built up from when they were children. So the coping mechanisms they use are not particularly healthy coping mechanisms, but that's the only way they know of coping with it. So what I try and do is help them understand and unpick the anxieties and the sort of the ways that they manage it.
Mm. So what is the first step to kind of releasing those small buildups?
Well, the first step really is recognizing. The first step is self-awareness. It's being aware of the stresses and anxieties that you're living with. If you're not aware of them, then you can't do much about it. People understand and recognize that they are living with anxiety and stress, but don't always know how to do it. So sometimes a conversation with somebody, and somebody points it out to them to tell them, actually, you're looking really stressed and really anxious today, because people aren't aware of it. So sometimes it's just that simple conversation with a colleague or a friend or a family member that can actually trigger people into understanding and gaining awareness of the fact that they are under stress and living with anxiety.
And, let me ask you this question. So, what is the biggest takeaway that you've gotten out of this kind of quarantine slowdown time in regards to stress and anxiety?
Interestingly enough, funny enough, I posted a blog post on my website the other day about social anxiety. Because one thing I've come to find is that during lockdown is that those living with anxiety have become less anxious because there's less pressure on them to conform to what people call the social norms of going out, meeting friends, going to work, where a lot of the stresses are. So people have been working at home, they've not been allowed to see sort of friends and things. So for a lot of people who are living with anxiety, it's actually been good for them. What I'm finding now is that there's an increase in social anxiety as we reduce lockdown and people are allowed out more. So then there's the pressure to conform. So during lockdown, some of the anxieties that were there disappeared, or not disappeared, but became less. But as we move out of lockdown, particularly those social anxieties, are becoming more prevalent.
That's interesting, actually. That's really, really interesting take. Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, because for me, right, I'm more stressed because I can't get out of the house. Because for me, it's basically the same as my every single day life because I work from home.
Mm.
But now I can't go and do the same things like go get a massage,
Mm.
go to salsa dance parties and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I agree. And I think for a lot of people, I mean, myself included, I'm quite used to sort of working on my own because I'm either working from home on Zoom calls, I'm working in the office on my own or one-to-one with people. So I'm quite somebody who likes going out to restaurants, bars, concerts, all that sort of thing. So I found it frustrating, but I suppose in a way I'm lucky because I understand where all that's coming from. So I can understand why, when we see large groups of people suddenly gathering, why they want to do it, because it's a release for them, isn't it? It's a release of what we've been having to live under. But for those who are actually sort of anxious people to start with, they're the ones that are now struggling a little bit because they're worried about sort of catching COVID. They're worried about having to go and back into work, all those social functions that they didn't have to attend. So you're dead right, Bryce. It works both ways for two different types of people.
Yeah, it's really, really great that they have you there to be able to really point that out. That's a really interesting point. Just thinking about kind of the future as we either come out of quarantine or just looking into the future in general, what's the vision for you, for your life, for as long into the future as you like to think about?
Oh, well, I suppose really what I want to be doing, because I want to be building the business up. The business is going well.
Mm.
And I want to, obviously, like most sort of business owners, they want to build a brand, build the sort of clientele that come and see them. Primarily, it's not just because of the money. It sounds weird and it sounds a bit cliche, Bryce, but I'm not just in it for the money. It pays the bills. But because of my own personal experience of having the stroke, living with high anxiety, my real, I suppose, vision is to help more people to be able to relieve their stress and manage their anxieties. So they're not having to live under the sorts of pressure that they are doing. So they can go out and enjoy things. Now we're coming out of lockdown, to be able to actually go out and enjoy things and attend social events and things like that. So it's about supporting people who were like I was sort of 6-7 years ago. So I want to grow the business in that respect and help more people. I want to be able to create things like courses and things like that, maybe even do group programs at some point in the future.
Nice. That's an interesting thing. So just thinking about you said you're making a course. Do you have anything new coming out right now, or anything that you'd like to tell us about, like a book, a group opening?
No, not at the moment. I mean, I'm working on a course at the moment. It's about stress and anxiety. So it's something that I've got in the pipeline. I've started sort of the foundations of it, I guess. But it's just putting it into a format that I can then sort of produce and sell on. So that would be sort of a short course which gives tips for people who are living with anxiety that helps them in the here and now.
Nice.
And then if, for example, that they need more in-depth coaching, then that's something they can come and see me about anyway. Mm-hmm. So a course is my next thing on the horizon.
Yes. Where can people go to either learn more about you, or where can they go to connect with you further?
Well, if they want to visit my website, I'll have to spell it for you. Okay. It's called Sisu Emotional Health and Coaching, and Sisu is spelled SISU. It's a Finnish word which basically means strength and perseverance through anxiety. So I chose it because it just seemed to resonate with what I'm trying to do, really. So it's Sisu, SISU, Emotional Health and Coaching, and I've got a website, and on there there's more about me, more about the coaching programs I run and why I came into coaching, and basically how I can help people sort of manage their anxieties and reduce the stress, really.
Nice. Excellent. And I really appreciate your time and your patience on the show. I know we've had a couple freezes during it.
It's fine. It happens all the time.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know if it's a Comcast thing. I have Xfinity Comcast, but yeah. But thanks for your time once again, and for those watching.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
It's been really lovely speaking to you.
So yeah, for you too, I'm really glad that we connected and we got a chance to meet. For those watching, we thoroughly hope that you found this valuable and got some like little nuggets and tips that you probably didn't notice before. I know I did when it came to the two types of people and the cause of anxiety, like the flip of the coin. Now, again, if you have not already joined, come and join us inside of our free community. I'm going to put some links either above or below the video. It's just a mastermind where people come together and support each other every day. So if that's what you've been missing out on in your life and in these tough times, come and join us inside, and I cannot wait to help you out. I will talk to you guys soon. Feel free to hit that share button so other people can get some great value. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. See you later. And bye-bye. We're done recording in 3 and 2 and